You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back to the show. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of this past week. We talked about the 7th Court of Appeals election between Lubbock attorney Larry Doss and Amarillo attorney Stephen Denny, and the fact the race was actually left off of the ballot in 2 counties. Mr. Doss, who's down by a little over 300 votes, contested the election, saying voter rights were violated, and a judge has agreed. So a new election will be held all over the South Plains and Panhandle on July 14th, of course, if we're allowed outside by then. And the back-and-forth legal fight over the state's inclusion of abortion on its list of banned medical procedures during the coronavirus outbreak is, for now, being won by the state. A federal judge in Austin had temporarily banned the ban, but that has now been reversed by the 5th Circuit Court. They say the ban on abortions can continue in Texas as the lawsuit against the state from pro-abortion groups plays out in court. What a mess. And if this works, we may elect Texas Ag Commissioner Sid Miller King of the Republic. Miller thinks he has a way to boost the supply of toilet paper in Texas stores, but he needs the governor's help. He's asked Mr. Abbott to suspend a law requiring that consumer packages sold here be printed in English. That would mean that toilet paper with packaging printed in Spanish could skip a trip to Mexico and be sold in Texas stores.
The large grocery chains have business down there. They can ship product up here that we sorely need. So, that's what we're waiting on. Just some common sense, some cowboy logic. We don't have to have toilet paper labeled in English. We know how to use it.
That is genius, folks, and Miller says this would only apply to toilet paper, not paper towels or tissues or anything like that. Meanwhile, the oil industry is worried that coronavirus could wipe away more than 500,000 of its jobs. Layoffs and salary cuts are already happening as prices hit an 18-year low. The problem is there's too much supply and free-falling demand. Texas leaders are now debating whether or not to mandate production cuts, which hasn't happened in decades. But as KAMC's Anna Warnicki reports, those industry leaders are hoping to avoid that with some help from the federal government.
When the New York Stock Exchange bell rang on Monday, CEO of Canary Oil, Dan Eberhardt, says alarm bells went off in the oil industry.
I've been doing this 20 years, and I've never seen oil go below 33, 31, somewhere in that range. Today, it's just above 20.
That's the lowest crude oil price in almost 2 decades. Eberhardt says there's no shortage of supply, but with Americans staying home to slow the spread of the virus and not driving or flying like normal, demand is drying up.
There's virtually no jet fuel needed, which is about 30% of oil demand typically.
On top of that, the ongoing price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia, after Russia refused to reduce oil production to prop up prices, and the Saudis retaliated by flooding the market. The White House says President Trump is talking with Russian President Vladimir Putin to try and ease the tensions abroad. During a call on Monday, the 2 presidents agreed that stabilizing the world's energy market is in everyone's best interest.
This is not a way for friends to treat friends.
Meanwhile, Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn is working to smooth things over with Saudi Arabia.
They need to understand that if they expect a cooperative relationship from us on arms sales, on a host of other issues, then they're going to have to treat us like a friend.
Cornyn says if oil prices don't start climbing, more than 500,000 jobs in oil-rich states like Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana are at risk. Eberhardt says typically when there is an oversupply of oil, they store the oil until it's ready to be used. But he says because there's so much being produced right now, he says storage prices are also soaring, so they're running out of places to put the extra oil. In Washington, I'm Anna Warnicki, KAMC News.
Anna, thank you so much. A lot of local business owners wondering what the next few weeks and months are going to bring. So we want to spend 5 good minutes now with Eddie McBride, who's the president of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce. It is good to see you, my friend. Thousands of new unemployment claims in the region and all over Texas. Do we know now who is actually hiring, whether it be short or long-term employment?
Yeah, there's several folks who have made themselves available to us to let us know that they're trying to hire. For example, like United Supermarkets and Walmart and those folks obviously trying to get the service providers, because they're essential to the business community and trying to continue providing all the services. So there are folks that are hiring out there and trying to get the business people that have been either laid off or lost their jobs for one reason or another, and trying to get them connected to the businesses that are hiring. that is going to be an ongoing task for us to work on.
I can imagine. Senator Cornyn has announced that $1.9 million in recovery grants is on its way to Lubbock. There are local pledges, I know, including many local banks, totaling over $1 million. Can you explain what all that money will specifically be for and who would qualify for that?
The $1.9 million that Senator Cornyn announced today for the city and the county is going to be going for the Community Development Block Grant money, and there's a variety of areas that they can, like food service, folks delivering meals, things of that nature. So there's a lot of money that might not have been spent in CDBG monies that the city has, but can be spent now. And what the South Plains, what the fundraising that the banks have contributed to, and that's being worked through the Community Foundation of North Texas and United Way, that's to help people. That's to help the folks that obviously, same people that might have lost their job, that are associated with some of the community efforts that are in the around Lubbock. So it's really good that some of that money is going to be able to help people.
Where is that money per se, and who would qualify to come and say, I need this for my business because of X, Y, and Z reasons? Where would that be?
They have a process by which you go through United Way and the Community Foundation of North Texas, and you can talk to those folks, and they have some board members of each of the organizations that are reviewing all the applications and all the requests for funding, and they have a really good process to make sure that money flows to the right people into the right way. So really, really happy that they're making that available for our community.
Outstanding. I know for small businesses there are also things called Paycheck protection loans, and as I understand it, some folks may not have to pay all or part of those loans back. Is that right?
That's right. If you keep everybody employed for 8 weeks, then the money that you're able to get from them, you'd be able to have it forgiven. And so that's the whole intent of that particular loan that came out of the CARES Act, is to make sure that you keep those people employed. So that is a great program that's available for small businesses. But let me give you a couple of statistics on that. It's going to be a little less than half of the people that's actually going to be available for it. Like there's 10,580 employees in the state of Texas, Brian, and it's $27.3 billion in potential aid. But I just want to remind everybody that's less than half of all those folks are going to be covered by this. I mean, you can also look at it as almost half are going to be covered, which is really great news. But there's still going to be a lot of folks that obviously aren't going to be able to get some of this help. But really appreciate the federal government making this available for those folks who do get that help.
Oh, sure. And what about for those mid-sized businesses? Maybe they're just on the opposite end of qualifying for something like that, but they're still struggling. Are there options out there available for them at all as far as loans?
Yes, sir. There's another set that was the CARES Act for that Paycheck Protection Program, and the other is what came under the Families First Act, and that's the Economic Disaster Loan. That's an SBA 7A loan where obviously they first, if you apply, they say that you'll get a $10,000 grant that you won't have to pay back. And then the loan is pretty good. It's 3 3/4 for a 30-year loan. You defer payments for a year, and they're just making it as easy as possible for those loans to be applied for. And I hope that they start that money flowing here pretty quick, because I haven't heard anybody yet, talking to my chamber counterparts across the nation, I haven't heard anybody that's gotten a $10,000 grant or any of that SBA loan yet. So we hope that money starts flowing freely. The Paycheck Protection Program, the applications process started today, and we've been told by Treasury Secretary Mnuchin that money should start flowing today as well. But if you talk to the banks are still it's a tidal wave that they're dealing with right now. So it's going to be good money once they're to help, but it might take a while before it actually to get there.
Well, we hope it gets going too as well there. What about charitable organizations? I'm worried that a lot of those folks won't be able to come back from a lot of this. Is there help for them?
Well, they're included in both of these. Both of these SBA loan programs, nonprofits are covered in both. Now, unfortunately, in the Paycheck Protection Program, organizations that are 501c6s, like the Chamber of Commerce, unfortunately, we were not written into that program, but 501c3 that are typically charitable and education foundations, they are available for the PPP.
Interesting. Eddie McBride, the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, you know, a lot of people are going to lean on you guys in the coming weeks, and I know you're up to the task. Thank you, sir, for everything you're doing. We sure appreciate it, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Bryan, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on.